And hello again. So welcome everybody. It's so nice to see you guys. This week we're going to be talking mostly about 3ds Max and its new features. Those that just joined in our channel, my name is Michael and I'm a teacher at VizAcademy Rendering School. If you want to learn a little bit more about us, I recommend you to visit our website. That's VizAcademy Co. UK. And without any further ado, let's go over today's topic. So a lot of you noticed that the new version of our favorite software just came out. And 3ds Max 2024 is going to be quite a big changer. I mean, it has quite nice things to really show us. One of which is actually its display name is not 3ds Max 2024, but it's Olympus. So I guess we're going to have to test how good Olympus really is. First thing first, the whole, let's say, patch note and what is exactly new in 3ds Max is quite long. And going through all of that is not going to be the best idea, I would say, because in reality, not all of the tools that we're going to be seeing there are going to be really useful to us as 3D artists and architects. I mean, the software is there, so we're definitely going to find out what's new. And just looking at it, the first thing I would say is amazing about new 3ds Max is, thing is that we're going to have tools that mostly will be game changers for mostly professionals, but also beginners will have a little bit easier way of, or let's say easier time getting into it. First thing I would like to really talk about is Material Editor, because this one thing is the huge change that I really love about the new 3ds Max. Although a lot of you will say that I hate it, but I honestly think that the new sleek design is really good. And I believe that it's going to be actually easier to create your materials due to some changes that are really cool. Just like most of the adult software, I would say, because 3ds Max is constantly getting better. Hello, Alberto. Hello, Amari. Hello, Guanlis, Puran, and everybody else who just joined in. So guys, did you install 3ds Max 2024? Because I would say that right now, although it's really great, I am going to withhold using it for at least 2 weeks up until all of the manufacturers will be able to really, let's say, roll out the updates for the newest software. Hello from Bangkok. Okay, I'm so happy to join your webinar. Been following your Instagram for a long time. Robert, that's really amazing. Thank you for that. Really nice to see that people are joining in. And okay, new Material Editor. First thing that I really like about it is it's dockable. And it's funny dockable because you can see that if I'm going to grab it and I'm going to be fast, it's going to be solid object. You can see that there's no way of, seeing through it. But if I'm going to grab it slowly, it is going to be transparent. And that means that we're going to be able to dock it. That may be a little bit, let's say, annoying at times because you will find that you will be docking it a lot if you don't grab it the right way, but it's not really going to be that much of an issue because 3ds Max has you covered this time. We can dock it on either side of our 3ds Max, so it's really going to be convenient to work with this way because we can literally just hide it behind other tabs and it's snappier, it's faster, it works better. So a lot of good things to say about it. But as I said, just grabbing it and docking it by mistake might be a bit of a nuisance. So how about we just click on modes and click on dockable. And that way we're never going to be able to dock it, and the option just disappeared, which is cool because right now this is going to be one of those things that we are going to be running into from time to time, and just having it is really cool. So that's my first thing I wanted to show you about the material editor. Next is material switcher. There's material switcher is a really nice tool that I think a lot of you will be using if you're not using Corona renderer. But if you are, Corona has got you covered since quite a while, and this new feature, although very useful, I think we're going to just say that it's there because we can use the alternative that comes with Corona. What we cannot really do with Corona is create our compounds, and that one thing is really amazing because again, we're going to have a little bit of a way of saving ourselves a little bit of time and space in our workflow. So whenever you will be working on materials that are, let's say, big, lengthy, and they take time to create, you will run into this issue where all of those branches are just going to be a bit, well, those are going to be a bit much. So what we can do now is try and just grab all of those branches, and we can just click on it and make this into a node compound, which is cool because now this whole setup is hidden here. And if I want to enter it, I don't need to create a separate view that's going to be instanced and so on. So we're just going to make sure that we just double click on it and we're in the new window, just like this one, where we can talk about all of the things that are part of this node group. But this is not all, because you can also see that right now all of those compound elements are kind of locked, and sometimes you will likely want to use your maps or mixes in multiple maps at the same time or multiple materials. So actually this is super strange, but 3ds Max stuff really thought about this, and we can grab any of the nodes and just expose an input parameter. So gain is now going to be this input, and that's really cool because I was afraid that if we're going to have only this name, it's going to be confusing because, well, it would be, but we can really name it Mike here. Okay, so now I know that I should be using this thing to plug in whatever map I'm going to be adding to the grain. So that gain thing is really cool because we're going to have a really nice control over our scene, and instead of having materials that are literally going to require a map, we're just going to have something that's going to be compact very neatly. But there's another thing, because right now, if we grab our maps and material, we can compound it into compound. So it's going to be a small container containing another container. So it's just like putting a group inside of a group. Cool, but you also may have noticed that right now this is pretty much useless because I cannot do anything with it. If I have an object in my scene, you can see this box, I cannot apply this material unless I double click on it, and then I'm going to click on this physical material and I will be able to click on this icon. Although, if we just grab the front of our material and expose an output parameter, well, it's going to work the same way as the last time with the map that I shown you. So we're going to be able to use it on our object. Although the icon is still not there, there's a workaround. So we can just grab the front and just apply the material this way. A bit of a, well, nuisance, but it's really going to be cool because at least you're not going to be applying materials by mistake this way. But it's going to require a little bit more accuracy. So definitely, is it available for architect student? Yes, it is. And as a student, you should definitely visit Autodesk's website because they have absolutely amazing offers for students. So you will be able to take advantage of their students program, where you pretty much signed up for the licensing and you get one version of 3ds Max on your hands for approximately a year, but I Don't quote me on that. I am not really in charge of that program or anything in Autodesk, really. So I would say that you have to visit their website because, well, the software is really easy to learn and we can really vouch for it looking at our students' work. So without any further ado, let's just move on to the next beautiful element of new 3ds Max. So as I mentioned, we're going to have material editor that's dockable, our material switcher, and we're going to make sure that array is also going to be something we're going to talk about. So array has a few new updates, and this update is really big. One thing Okay, so one thing that's going to be really cool about array modifier is that, well, we now have a different way of looking for materials in our material slot editor. So not only we're going to be able to quickly get the list, it no longer takes an hour for it to roll out, because previously it took a while to roll out, and which, okay, it wasn't that much, but if you have to click on it continuously, it's going to be a little bit annoying. So this is 3ds Max 2023. And here we're going to see that that it's really instant, and I love it because it's fast and really beginner friendly. So again, we're going to see that going down, again, it's faster. So just looking at it makes me happy because this is how it's supposed to work from the very beginning. And finally, going for my most light modifiers is going to be way easier, and world scale modifiers are no longer going to be clicked by mistake. So that's really cool. And I love it because it works really fast. And we were about to say this about array. So array modifier, it has new options. So first of all, we've got this, I cannot pronounce this. So this option is going to allow you to pretty much play around with more natural patterns. It's kind of, I would say, tricky to get into it, because in reality it's going to help you mostly create stuff like well, petals and organics. So I think it's going to be a good thing to actually see what 3ds Max stuff is doing with it. And you can see that it's actually quite cool because it works fast and it's actually nonsense free. So I appreciate that because again, although this option is not going to be that much of a game changer, I really love it because now we have this option that we didn't have before. What's also cool is that in transform, we have the option to inherit transform, and incremental transformation means that we're going to get more and more distance between elements when we really apply the changes. So if we go to any kind of rotation, we're going to be able to, well, get a little bit different option, just like a little bit different effects, just like we did have this option in array as a tool. But this tool wasn't as flexible, and I'm going to show you why this flexibility helps a lot now when 3ds Max has been updated, mostly because it's really helpful to combine our modifiers together. So please share your V-Ray as well and changes in 3ds Max as a beginner learner. So V-Ray does not yet have any changes for this 3ds Max, but as soon as we're going to have Corona out with new updates, we're going to surely post you on the news, because next update, from what I've heard and what I've read, is going to be quite interesting. And going back to this scene that I've shown you during our, well, let's say beginning, you can see that we've got quite a lot of things that we could be creating based on array and based on one new tool that I would like to talk about right now. And that tool is going to be related to Booleans. Before we get into it, I'm going to quickly really talk a little bit about stuff that may be helpful, especially when you will be creating short animations for your interiors. So it works like magic with the rotopology modifier. Yes. So yeah, about retopology that now new retopology is working even better. But in reality, what's improved the most is the way that our 3ds Max reacts to objects. So if we're going to take text, max text, right, and we're going to convert it to editable poly, typically what would happen is all of those triangles and all of the elements would be, well, quite, would look really bad, because at some point all of the triangles would be creating that long stretched out element, and a lot of times we would see that some element would look like this, where you would have well, this kind of extrusion or some kind of other bugs. But luckily this time we're no longer going to need any kind of we're no longer going to have this problem, because right now that was actually fixed, and they made a better algorithm that makes all of that a little bit, well, it works better. No need to go into detail, because honestly, that's something that we are not really going to jump in that kind of detail, because all you need to know is creating models is just better. So let's continue. And as I was saying, next thing that I would like to talk about is mixing the modifiers. By the way, if you save a file in newer version of 3ds Max with Boolean, it might not be a shocker, but you're going to get this missing OSM. So that means that you cannot really move those objects from one scene to another. I just wanted to test if it works, but well, it's not perfect. But let's talk about this beautiful new thing, and that is going to be our, Boolean as a modifier. So you can see that previously our student, when creating this beautiful scene, once again, this is a scene created by Alexandra, our student. So she was able to well, create this beauty in just a few weeks during our training. So congratulations and thank you for sharing your scene. Let's continue. So now you can see that before that, when 3ds Max 2024 wasn't really out, we had to resort to, well, a little bit of stitching. A lot of elements were kind of looking okay. You can see that although we should and could fix all of that, it wasn't necessary at the time, so we didn't. And well, at some occasions, because all of those elements were behind other objects, we don't need to do it. But sometimes you will just have to do a little bit more to impress your boss or your client. So we're going to just click on our object. So this is the wall that everybody saw on this picture. So once again, Alexandra, thank you. So we're going to try to create those cutouts for all of those windows in, I would say, perfectly reasonable time without really changing this object or collapsing it. Before, we had to go to our creation panel, compound objects, Boolean, and all of the modifiers on our object were lost. So I would say that most of the time, this was a little bit of a problem, because you had to make a decision whether I want to keep modeling on this mesh or do I really want to mess it up. And this time we no longer have this kind of problems. Not only this object is created out of a new way of modeling in 3ds Max. I mean, this was out a few years ago, but some of you may be still shocked to hear about this new way of modeling, and shift dragging is the new thing for 3ds Max. And honestly, I think it's one of the best things that happened to it since retopology. Okay, so going back to Booleans, we're going to see that hello, Dimar. Hello, nice to see you. By the way, guys, I can see that in our audience there are few of our students, so thank you for joining in. Rayani, I can see you. So let's continue. Now, once again, I'm going to go over just the basics of this very good modifier. It's one of the strongest modifiers out there right now in 3ds Max for modeling. What I noticed is that 3ds Max, let's say developers, are pushing us artists further and further away from retopology, or let's say proper topology, from let's say being engineers in 3ds Max. They are trying to make this as creative and as creativity friendly as possible. So we've got the normal operands. So we've got our typical union, we've got subtraction that's going to only take away one object. We've got our split, which is quite cool. It works exactly as it sounds, and we've got a few extra elements. So merge, we've got attach, and we've got insert. But what really is going to be the sweet spot for me is only our object extraction. So we're going to subtract this one, and this is cool because if we click on manipulate operands, we're still going to see where they were used. And if I click on this sphere, that's going to be a point now in space. So it's going to scale up the further I'm going to go away from this object. Not really perfect because if you're going to go too far, it's going to be a little bit hard to click on your object actually. But going back to what I was saying, we can go back to this object at any moment, and you can see that my main wall inherited this array modifier. So that means that I can go back and actually change something in this array, so it's still not collapsing my object. And that's super powerful because what I can do is just manipulate anything about this part of the object and still have it, well, work perfectly fine for me. I can also add more operands by clicking on the same button and just adding one more in. And what's absolutely amazing is if I select another operand, and you can see that right now I'm going to go for the cylinder in here, I can just blatantly select its gravity center, or gizmo actually. So we are going to be able to locally move it around. And look at that, I'm copying this and automatically adding a new operand. So again, super fast way of prototyping your models. And the fun part is that we're not getting any kind of weird lines or any kind of weird retopology. So it's really, really getting, well, better, I guess. And we can also add the last part, which is also cool because if I select this one, I can just scale it up and it's going to work perfectly fine. And this is cool because it's powerful, it's going to be useful for your 3ds Max endeavors, and it will allow you to render your work way, way faster. And using 3ds Max like this is just perfect option for everybody. The Boolean modifier is a really great game changer. Yes, it is, Ryani, thank you. Hello from Brazil. Hello, Walmir. It's great to see you. Okay, hello, Ozdobek. Now, Diogo. Oh my God, Diogo, hello. I remember you. Hi. So, Diogo is also my student from, well, a while ago, but this is amazing. Nice to see you, man. How you been? Hi, is Corona compatible with 3ds Max 2024? Because I'm guessing because of the Easter, they will take at least a few extra days, but after that, they will roll out either a new daily build, hotfix, or they will just roll out the version number 10. So either way, we're going to get our hands on the newest Corona in approximately a week or so. So do not yet expect that everything is going to work, because all the manufacturers, smaller and bigger, are typically taken by surprise by 3ds Max stuff, because this allows them to kind of shine a little bit, because hey, our default functions are working. Why don't you use our rendering engine? But for a while, 3ds Max is pushing towards, let's say, their own rendering engine, which is Arnold. Not exactly their rendering engine, but the one they chose to use. And I would say that it's great, but it's an equivalent of Internet Explorer for rendering engines. So yes, it's capable, it's useful, and everybody should probably use it at some point, but it's Internet Explorer and you don't want that. That's really how I would call it. So going back to the Boolean, what is also going to be cool is, again, the modifier list is just the best change ever. And we can really see that, okay, there's something going on with this. I mean, some lines are intersecting at some point, and that's why we're getting this bad topology, or our smoothing groups are acting up. What's the best solution to that? Sometimes you can go for extra segments, but we can see that this still remains. And now the trick to it is to go for inset. So we add this option, and it just clears out everything. What it does, it creates one more line that's going to be protective around your edges. This is not new. This is just something that I want to put out there. So when using Boolean, you're not going to be disappointed with your chamfers, because those chamfers can be very important for a lot of you. And I think that in this case, it's going to be quite cool. And I promised you that we're going to talk a little bit about animation. So I'm not going to go into specifics of it, but we're going to be able to show you one very nice or two very nice elements of it. Meanwhile, guys, if you have any questions related to 3ds Max, our training, make sure to voice them now, so I'll be able to answer them in a minute, because we're going to have a short Q&A before the end of our webinar. This part is going to be cut out later on, so make sure to, shoot your questions. Okay. So what I would like to show you now is that we're going to have new controls, and those are motion paths. By default, all of them are going to be pretty much grayed out, and that's because we don't have any animation. So previously, to create a nice curved animation, what you had to do is, well, create it by hand and then go to the graph editor. So I'm just going to create my new animation. Okay, so that's cool. And now we've got pretty much the extras of this whole process. So we've got our very simple yet controllable animation. We no longer only will be working with the keys or keyframes. In this case, we can actually select them and go berserk on them, because now we can play around and break them, or just apply any kind of changes we want to them. So if we right click, we can add the tangents, break tangents, or just work with them the way we want. So if I'm going to, if I want to add a little bit of, let's say, extra curvature into my movement, I can just click on this option here, and I'll be able to add that extra curve that's going to allow me to only work with this very nice animation, and I can move it around. Prior to this, we were kind of forced into going to the 3ds Max curve editor, which wasn't that bad, but that's definitely not easier. And you can see that although it has all of the options in the world, it's not as flexible. It's not as, I would say, even cute, because it's just now way easier to animate anything. Before that, we had to work with a lot of different things, and I kind of hated animating in 3ds Max because of that, because the curves, although not the most confusing thing ever, they were kind of hard to control. But now with the right approach, we can create super smooth animations without really even thinking about it. And that's one thing that I'm going to really say that they did right. We also have parameters, and honestly, there's a controller list that we can apply into our 3ds Max. But again, this is a little bit more advanced thing that we don't need to go into, because it's good to know that it's there, but motion paths are going to be pretty much fixing everything for us. And hello from India, hello from Thailand. Hey Mike, really like this update, but would you say that it's risky to use it with older projects, especially projects using the old Boolean version? So no, Amari, are you that Amari? So again, I would say that there's probably no risk, but Again, I would definitely create a copy, at least for the first month. I would create a copy of each project before opening it with new 3ds Max. New Boolean doesn't mean that the old Boolean was deleted. It's there, it works, it's great, and you should definitely use it. But the new Boolean is way better. And I believe that it's something that we should be focusing on the most. So in this case, I moved back into our 3ds Max 2023. So I'm going to show you why creating those elements out of booleans was actually a quite nice idea. And when it comes to array modifier, we can now use it for multiple occasions. For example, if we have this object, previously we would only have this option to use a floor generator, which is great, but again, having multiple ways of creating stuff in 3ds Max is really what Max is known for. For objects like this, again, I recommend you to use a Corona pattern, but this is going to be some other lesson that we have to go through. It seems like I mistakenly created a little bit of a problem in my scene because I deleted half of the walls due to the fact that I backtracked the version of my 3ds Max, so I'm not going to be even able to render this out. So I will just pretend that I did, show you this beautiful image and say that this is now going to be the end of this webinar. So rest of our new options in 3ds Max, although very useful, I would say that are not going to be that groundbreaking for us as 3D artists that work with arch interiors and exteriors. So if you want to learn more about 3ds Max and how to use it, we designed very good training that you're going to enjoy. For more info, visit our website, that's VizAcademy Co. UK. You're going to be able to read through it, and we're going to teach you how to model, lit your scenes, how to create materials, how to create interiors and exteriors, plus scattering systems. Along the way, you're going to have access to our support, which works 7 days a week, different hours, but at the same time, you're going to have access to multiple professionals to ask them questions and to go through some of your work. Our students, as you probably noticed, work on their own projects, and we make sure that everybody will be able to create top quality interiors and exteriors during the training. All of them were created by our students during our training or right after. So if you want to join VizAcademy, visit our website. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a like, which that is going to help me create new videos like this one, and also follow up with our plan of having webinars each week. If we're going to get 1,000 likes before the next webinar, we're going to give you an extra surprise, which is going to be quite extraordinary again. This is it for today. Thank you very much. And now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about answer your questions actually. So let's go ahead and see what kind of questions do we have. Hi Mike, how are you doing? Stas, I'm doing really fine. Let's keep this 3ds Max related, shall we? Hello from Colombia. Hello, really nice to see you, miss. Thank you, Mike. Thank you as well. Glad to watch your video again. By the way, it has been a while. Yes, I knew that it's you though. So it's great to see you, man. Nice to see you more active again on YouTube. Yes, and we will keep this up. So from all the questions that we've got, when will Corona be active with 3ds Max? So as I mentioned before, I think it's going to take us at least a week, but you know, there's a lot of holidays coming up, and people aren't really that into programming at that at that period, so we're definitely going to see something new quite soon. But please be on the lookout. We're definitely going to make a video on that as soon as it's out. Hey, good afternoon from Dominican Republic. Thank you, Angel, and it's really nice to see that we're reaching you there. So is new 3ds Max is new 3ds Max worth it? Yes, it is. I mean, worth in a sense, are those new options worth it? Yes, definitely you should try it out. So it is going to be a good experience, but I always recommend you to hold on at least a month before you really jump in your ship to the newer version, because again, we have to give time to the manufacturers to update the floor generators, the forest packs, Coronas, V-Rays, all of that requires time. And unfortunately, newer version each year is always going to give those, nice developers a little bit of a hard time. Okay, so I don't see any extra questions. It was a blast. I'm really glad that we had such an amazing audience. Next time, hello from Egypt. Hello, Nabil. It's really great to see you. Thank you for joining in. But unfortunately, you just joined in at the very last minute because I'm literally saying goodbye. So once again, thank you for joining in. Thank you for your attention. Leave a like on our video, make sure to subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss anything. Once again, thank you, and see you next time in next week. So bye bye.